right, good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but I wanted to get everything set up camera-wise on the scope, so I wasn't messing around too much with that in prep time, because today is all about Mars, and I want to get observing as soon as possible. A couple of things, as I just mentioned, tonight's program is going to be focused on the red planet. That is because we are on close approach to Mars, or Mars is on close approach to us, however you'd like to think about it. It's all relative, right? What that means is, if I remember the figure correctly, I think we are about 30 million to 40 million, somewhere in there. 36 million, I think, is the number I remember, miles away from Mars. And that's a pretty close approach. Now, I think the closest occurred on October 6th. But we are still before the Mars opposition, which is going to happen on the 13th. And the opposition means that Mars will rise up in the sky directly opposite of the sun setting. So you can think about it like we're all in a line. We have Sun, Earth, then Mars, all in a line. So it's a great opportunity to observe the red planet. If you've been noticing this big red star rise up in the sky around this time, around 9 o'clock, that would be Mars. So you can go outside, look to the east. Yep, it is still, just in the eastern sky there, and go see it for yourself. It is Mars is about half the size of our planet, so it's pretty small, but we are close enough to it right now to resolve some pretty good detail on the surface. And it's not like Venus, where we can get really close to Venus, but Venus's surface is covered in clouds, so we can't ever make out much detail from a telescope like this. Mars is different. While it has some cloud systems, it ends up you are able to. It's not a thick cloud layer like Venus, so you can actually make out some of the darker regions, maybe the pole. We'll see what we can find tonight. I'm going to switch over to what I call my observing screen, which is just where we'll put all the information we need for tonight. Let me switch over to that. There we go. And I have the Kopernik website open here, kopernik.org. If anyone isn't aware of Kopernik and joining us for the first time, we're an observatory and science center located in Vestal, New York. We are holding a bunch of virtual programs now on YouTube. Tonight we just had a talk from David Woods, IBM and Lockheed Martin aerospace engineer, and he talked about the launch abort of Space Shuttle Discovery. So we have that available up on the YouTube channel now. You can go back and watch that. We do try to stream a program every Friday night, be it a presentation like that or observing. And for instance, just on September 26th, we had a big observing program for International Observe the Moon Night. You can go back and watch our results there. Here's our program for this evening. I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page because I want to look at the clear sky conditions. There they are. So usually the upper cloud cover layer seems to be the most accurate. So we're good in terms of cloud cover. We're decent on transparency. Seeing could definitely be better. So this might not be our only Mars stream. We will see if in the next week or week after we have some better seeing. I will definitely use that opportunity to get some more Mars data, and I might as well just stream it too. So look out for that. If we'll post it on our channel. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit the subscribe button, and you'll keep up to date on the latest live streams we have coming. So if we click on this, it gives you more details as to what each of these colors actually means and translates to. So transparency is average. Seeing is 2 out of 5. So that's considered poor this evening. Usually on the best days we get average or good. I don't know if I've ever seen the seeing be excellent here. So I'm hoping at some point we'll at least get to average and we can get some good image data. It doesn't look bad tonight. I already spoilers. I already took a look at Mars. It's actually hidden just behind this window. We'll see it in just a sec. So we don't really have to worry about clouds at least tonight. Now I do want to encourage you to explore Mars with me this evening. Now this is a really high resolution map taken by the European Space Agency satellites and NASA satellites around Mars. And so this is not something not the type of data you can collect through a telescope. You have to actually go there to get a high resolution map like this. But we can use this to sort of guide us on what features we're seeing. I think it is pretty up to date. If you want to follow along, all you have to do is search for Mars Trek. It's an official NASA website. And you can see you can add a bunch of layers to your view. You can see where the rovers have landed, like Opportunity, Spirit, Curiosity. You can see where Perseverance is going to land. I think that's in early winter, January or February, slipping my mind, but that'll be an exciting one. Perseverance is basically a twin rover to Curiosity in terms of most of its design, but it does have a different mission. And also it comes with a helicopter that's going to fly around on Mars, because there is air on Mars. You just need basically you just need the blades to be longer to actually provide enough lift for just a tiny little box to fly around on Mars. It's very lightweight, but I think, what is that called? It's Perseverance and Ingenuity, I think it is. Ingenuity is the little copter that's going to fly around. Okay, so that's if you want to follow along with me there. If anyone has any questions, I will be monitoring the chat during this stream, so please let me know. Let's see, make sure I actually bring it up on my phone, because that's how I usually monitor it. Seems to work pretty well. Just going to turn my volume down so you don't get an echo. All right. Looks like we have some people in the chat. Welcome, everyone. I will be happy to answer questions as we go through this, but I think for now, let me go ahead and show you my setup that I have this evening, and then we will switch over to the astrophotography camera, that view. Hi Mike, good to see you. Let me switch cameras here. This one's actually on the ground. I might turn the white lights on for a second. Grab that. These on for a moment. There we go. You can see the 6-inch behind me there, but I'm going to give you a better view right there. So now I got my handheld camera. Apologies if it's going to be a little bit rickety, but so here's our 6-inch refractor telescope. This is the counterweight right in front of me here. That hurts if you knock your head on it. So it's a really long telescope. It's an f12 refractor. That is the focal ratio. And it's a great telescope for observing the planets. If you've seen our other streams, if you've attended those, then I'm sure you're familiar with some of the views we've been able to get out of this with Jupiter and Saturn and the moon as well. We got a really great image of the moon last week. You can see I have that red. You can see that red section cylinder in the eyepiece area. Oh, and actually, you know what? I meant to not put it in the right angle. I don't know why I did that. I might switch that maybe halfway through the stream, but I have a good view of Mars right now, so I'm not going to worry about it just yet. Maybe when we switch to the Barlow lens, I'll do that. You can see it's hooked up. Down we go to the streaming setup here. So that's the setup for tonight. I don't think I'm going to use any other cameras beyond this one unless we decide to do deep sky objects later, which is an option. I will have to switch over to my other camera for that. This one is going to be too narrow of a field of view. Okay, so let me turn the white lights off. switch back to my webcam. Have to bring that up. There we go. Okay. Put the webcam back down there. All right. So let me go ahead and just start us off with our view of Mars. Actually, just all I have to do is switch over to my observing screen. And then, again, this is that website, but we're just going to switch right here. And this is our view of the red planet tonight. Now, this is one view. I can add a Barlow lens to, and a Barlow lens will magnify this 2 times. So we'll be able to zoom in, hopefully make out a little bit more detail. For right now, what I can do is digital zoom. This is at 80% crop, so we're going to zoom in a little bit more. I don't want to go too far, just because at a certain... I can show you what happens. You start to get pixelated. See that? Around the edges, you get that pixelation. That actually doesn't look too bad. The only problem is we do have a little bit of wind tonight, so the image will shake. We've determined at this point that that was the problem. If you remember from our other streams, with some of the planets, we got that shaky effect. We'll see that again tonight because of the wind. I've done what I can to mitigate that on the scope and the mount. So occasionally we'll get a gust and it'll shake around, but it'll stabilize here and there. I'm thinking that looks pretty decent tonight, though. Despite the seeing. Now, that wobble is actually, it is a mixture of the seeing and the wind. The slight wobbly edges that you see when it stops looking like a circle and might like shift into a weird irregular form, that's from our atmosphere. That's the seeing. Some disturbances in our atmosphere. The significant shift, almost like the object is translating around the screen, moving around, that's from the wind and from just the slight bits of adjustment that from the wind that's hitting the telescope, just shifting it ever so slightly. But we are so zoomed in here that ends up having a lot of impact on our image. Well, let me see. Oh, we got a lot of people in the chat here. Welcome, everyone. Oh, we have Denise asking, why does Mars have a reddish color? So that reddish color, if you think about, if you go to a store and get a can of paint, you might think about what exactly this color would be called. First thing that might come to your mind is rust. And effectively, that's what we're seeing here on the red planet. We are seeing rust, oxidation of iron, essentially. And that's what gives it its reddish hue. Great question. Now that's not consistent throughout the Martian surface, nor the if you were to dig into Mars, it's not consistent throughout. It's not completely rust all the way through. That's mostly a surface feature. Once again, I have some insect friends joining me. I thought tonight would be too cold for them, but apparently not. That's okay. Hello, Tish. Hi, David. Ah, Philip, that's a good question as well. What magnification are you at? Well, I'll do my best to give you an estimate of that. I might have to do a quick calculation. The problem is I'm not using an eyepiece right now, so it's not as straightforward. I'm using strictly that sensor on the camera. So I'll look into how I can give you a rough idea of that. If it was an eyepiece, I wouldn't have as much trouble, but because we're using that camera, it becomes a little bit more difficult to estimate. But you can see as we look at the red planet, the view actually fades in and out in terms of clarity, and once again, that is because of our atmosphere. So occasionally, that dark equatorial feature you see across from top to bottom, that's actually more representative of the equator of Mars. If you want to think about how you'd actually get a true view of this. As far as its rotational plane is concerned. You can think of that dark patch as the equator, or roughly the equator. And I forgot where I was going with this. Lost my train of thought. Well, one interesting thing about those dark patches, though, is they do change. When you see those dark patches, they're indicative of canyons, of lower features on Mars. They are also indicative of sort of uncovering the surface a bit, and those dark patches do change over time with dust storms. So the rusty color that you see on Mars, that's coming from that dust. And actually, 26 months ago, when we were at the previous opposition of Mars, I think that was in late July, August, something like that. It was actually undergoing a massive dust storm. So some of the surface features did change a little bit because every so often Mars kicks up a lot of dust into its atmosphere because there are winds. And this was just a global dust storm, and we couldn't see any detail during that opposition, which is too bad because it was a really even a closer approach than this one. So we lost that opportunity. But thankfully this year we're this opposition we're not going to have a problem. The next one is going to be 26 months from this opposition that occurs on October 13th. So I think that's December 8th is the official next opposition. Oh yes, Tish asks, can you explain why Mars looks sideways? So that has to do with the optics of the telescope, and how our camera is positioned in the optic, and how the optics actually can flip the image. My best example of this that you might have experienced in your daily life is if you think of your image in a spoon. If you look at your reflection in the cup of the spoon, you'll see your image flip because the way the light is reflecting off the inside. So that's more akin to like a reflector telescope, but it gets the idea across why things don't look exactly as they would be if you were looking at this yourself. Also, something that plays a role is its position in its position in the sky, because depending on where it is, it'll be angled slightly different in the sky when it's just rising compared to when it's at its highest point compared to when it's setting. So that's also something to consider. So we're getting an image that fades in and out. I do want to eventually go to a optically zoomed view. Right now, where we are just digitally zooming the image. But I will be able to bump this up 2 times with what's called a Barlow lens. Okay, I got another question here. Where is what is the focal length? Is it? So it's an f12 focal ratio. Focal length. I'm trying to think how big that would be. I know you can calculate focal ratio. Oh, here it is. It'd be like 1900 millimeters, something like that. $1,800. Yep. Okay. Can you see Mars' 2 moons? Oh, that's a great question, Mike. So I was on the astrophotography subreddit the other day, because everyone's celebrating Mars right now, and it's a good place to go if you're interested in looking up at some good astrophotos, and also learn about astrophotography. You can learn quite a bit from people on there too. Someone had imaged, I can't remember whether it was Phobos or Deimos. My guess is it was probably Deimos, just because I think Deimos is the one that's a little bit further out. Phobos is pretty close to the planet, but they were able just to image just the tiny point of light. Like we can try to get an idea of how that would work. I don't think we'll be able to see it, but if you increase the gain here, you can see you get more sensitivity to light, losing all the detail on the surface, but potentially exposing any moons near it. That's what we do for Jupiter and Saturn when we want to see those. But these are so tiny compared to those moons. So you see, we can bump up the exposure. Let's go to the next. There we go. You see, we can bump it up. That's at about a half a second exposure of Mars. So we're updating the frame every half second. If we go there we go, to 1 second exposure, updating the frame every 1 second. We're still not seeing anything. Even if you increase the gain, I doubt we will. Yeah, see, we're way overexposed here. I don't think we're making out anything other than Mars there. I don't see any indication of stars or moons. But that's a great question. And people have been able to spot it. It's just they're so tiny that, and so close to the planet, it becomes very challenging to see them. Let's get it back to a good exposure here. That's pretty good. Lots of questions. I'm loving this. Denise, how long do you think it would take to get to Mars in a space flight? Well, we actually are sending a rover to Mars right now. If you live in the United States, your tax dollars are paying for the Perseverance rover and Ingenuity copter that's going to fly around the Martian atmosphere. The rover is the same size as the Curiosity rover. It's a big car-sized rover, and it's in space right now heading to the Red Planet. It launched at the end of July. I think it was actually July 31st, and it's going to get there in the early winter, or I guess maybe midwinter. Let's see. Give you a date for that. Perseverance landing. It's January or February. February 18th, 2021. So it takes around six to 7 months to get there. So if you want to go to Mars, and touch down on the Red Planet, you're going to be in for a long space flight, and that's what a lot of astronauts and scientists are preparing for right now, is to send humans to Mars, to make that journey without harming the human body. That's the crucial point. You have radiation to worry about because you're not protected by the Earth's magnetic field. Once you leave Earth, you have to worry about cosmic rays and radiation from the sun that otherwise we're protected from. And even while you're on Mars, that's something to worry about too, because Mars is more or less a pretty quiet and dead planet. So its magnetic field is very weak compared to Earth's. The reason our magnetic field is so strong is because we have a very active interior. Mars does not have that same activity anymore. Most likely it did in the past, but it cooled down because it's a smaller world. So you have to worry about that there. And then, you got to think about how long you're going to be on the Red Planet. You want to be there for a month? Like, how long is it to make it worth the journey? Or do you just set up a colony there? There's lots of things to think about. And then you also have to plan for the trip back. And that's another crucial thing to think about, because you have to think about how these objects move through the solar system. So we launched Perseverance, NASA launched Perseverance in July, before the opposition, so it could catch up to Mars. So you could think about Earth being just before Mars in its orbit. Earth is catching up to Mars, and we're on close approach now. Perseverance launched just before that in July, so it could catch up to Mars. But then you got to think about what's going to happen when you return back to Earth. You have to catch up to Earth. So you got to plan out your mission accordingly. Otherwise, it would take an exceptional amount of time to catch up to our planet on the return home. So it would probably be something like you launch early, fly there in 6 months, land on the surface, maybe stay for a month at most, and then get back to Earth in another 6 to 7 months. And the alternative, of course, is just staying for a year and a half or something and waiting for the Earth to get close again. Okay. That's a great question, Denise. Christy, are there any seasons left behind on Mars, like for wind to help with future instruments landing? It's not seasons, excuse me, sensors. That's a good question. I do think that, they certainly have some data collection for the basic weather systems on Mars, on the Curiosity rover. I'm sure there was even one on InSight. InSight is the lander. It doesn't move around on Mars. It stays stationary and it's sort of like a lab table, and it's studying the interior of Mars. So that's another one. I think they are able to monitor it there. Probably the most valuable tool are the satellites in orbit around Mars. Those are best for tracking significant storm systems like dust storms, and they can even do some basic weather detection, because we're already familiar with doing that here on Earth and tracking our weather systems from above. You can do something similar there. But yeah, I think they have some ground-based instruments that can determine that, because they need it for themselves too. The rovers need it to understand their environment. I think I can play with the Philip. I think I can play with the RGB a little bit through the software. I don't know if I can. Like we have for instance, we have a monochrome camera where we actually do have a filter wheel for it, and I think we could even attach that filter wheel to this one. They're effectively the same camera. It's just the difference between sensors. I'm just not sure what filters would be useful for this guy. I guess RGB filters would be useful for picking out different detail on the surface. So it might be worth going to that monochrome camera. If you're interested, we can try that a little bit later. Oh, I'm picking up fan noise. Let me mute myself on the stream here just so I can hear it on my end. Turn the volume up on my phone for a second. Yes, I certainly heard that. Wonder what I can do here to mitigate that. The problem is because I'm running this on a MacBook right now, it is actually, you know what? Some of its air intake is blocked a little bit. Let me switch this forward. Push the stand forward so I can make sure it gets the air it needs. It's a little bit cooler tonight, so I'm hoping it do a little bit better. The alternative, actually, I could switch over to the other microphone on that camera. I think I have a tripod down. Let me do that. I think this will, because I'm using the microphone directly on my laptop. So it's just picking it up through the body of the laptop itself. I'm sure there's also a way to just filter out that sound, but I just don't know how to do that right now. Because it's a consistent noise level. I can see it on the stream. I'll be right with anyone that is asking any questions. For anyone that's new to the stream, welcome. We are observing Mars right now. That's mostly what we're going to focus on tonight. There we go. Just got to shorten my tripod a bit. And we do live streams like this all the time. Whenever we have clear skies, we try to get out and do some imaging. Speaking of, I do have to start recording some data for this. Because I sort of want to try and get a rotational animation of Mars. It has a 24.5-hour day, so the rotation is noticeable. Over the course of a couple hours, you can start to notice some good. Oh, you know what? The mount isn't there. It must be inside. Oh no, it's right here. Let's remove that. But if you have not subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so. I would love to hit 700 subscribers tonight if we haven't already. That's our goal for tonight. It's always good to set a goal, right? Lock this in place. What's going on here? Now let me know if anyone spots the pole at all. It's pretty small, not super easy to spot right now compared to the summer. It was much bigger. When it was our summer, I guess is a better way to put it. There we go. All right, now we're stable. All right, let me switch the microphone source. Let's see here. Where is that? How's that? Is that any better? Do you hear the fan noise still? Let me know in the chat. Switch the audio source. Hopefully it's coming across a little bit nicer. No fan noise. Okay, great. All right, let me get back to your questions here. So Kendra says, for basic at-home viewing with a beginner's telescope, what size lens would you recommend for viewing Mars tonight? So while we are on close approach to the red planet, Mars still is a pretty small object compared to things like Jupiter, which are further out, but Jupiter is a massive world. Same with Saturn, especially its rings add a significant amount of size to that planet as well. So Mars is almost comparable to those when we're on close approach. As we move away, it starts to get really tiny. But during close approach, I've been able to have some pretty decent success with my 4-inch reflector that I had previously when I was first starting my astronomy. That was my first. Well, I guess my first telescope was that 70mm refractor. That's probably to make out detail. You'd be hard pressed to really see too much. You might see a gradient of dark and light, but you wouldn't make out some of this actual structural detail in this band across the equator. Or you might be able to make out if one of the poles is bright enough and large enough, maybe you could see that. Actually, you know what? I think we are seeing the pole right here. just maybe, we're getting a little bit of white color there. It is, the pole is really tiny right now. Anyways, let me finish answering your question before I get too distracted. So yeah, I would recommend, you know, go a little bit above the standard refractors if you want to try it. Binoculars wouldn't quite work for this one. Because it's so tiny, you're going to be hard pressed to hold the binoculars up and try and make out any detail, unless you have really powerful binoculars that you can like mount on a tripod. That would probably be okay. But things like Dobsonian telescopes, those they're pretty handy for planets and deep sky objects, so, and you can get them for pretty cheap. They're like, and you can get good sizes, 5 inches, 6 inches. Even the 8 or 10 inches aren't really that expensive for the size of the aperture. So that's what I would recommend, just to actually ensure you can get some good detail. This is a 6-inch refractor to give you a bit of a bearing. Now this one is an expensive planetary scope, so but I mean you'd be able to make out similar detail on a shorter focal ratio scope. I'm going to move the dome just a bit. Sorry about the noise. So we don't lose Mars. Or slewing. This is a tracking telescope that I'm using. So it is actually following Mars right now on its equatorial mount. Let's see, I had some other questions too. I hope that answered your question, Kendra. Gave you a good idea. Oh, thank you for the update on the subscriber count. I appreciate that. Because it's not trivial for me to jump back between this view and the subscriber count view. And you had a question here. How come you cannot get your image as focused as possible? Why are they blurry? So that has to do with our seeing tonight. If you watch the image closely, you can see the detail fade in and out. And that's because our seeing isn't ideal. We are actually, in the clear sky chart, if I go back to that briefly, this is the Mars Trek map that you can use on nasa.gov for those interested. But here's the clear sky chart. The seeing is considered poor, or 2 out of 5. And we're not going to improve at all through the evening here, unfortunately. Cloud cover is good, transparency is average, but the seeing isn't great. And that is a measure of how clear and stable these objects will appear in the sky. And unfortunately, it's not looking super crystal clear. If you had the best seeing, that would be the case and you would be able to collect a lot of great data on a crystal clear night. But tonight, it's just not quite there. Good question. So I'm assuming this is the South Pole we're seeing down here, because I think it's only the South Pole that's visible right now. This little white speck that comes in and out occasionally, and this up here would most likely be the North Pole then. I think that's right. Yeah, the North Pole is shadowed right now. I thought so. So yeah, our only chance is to spot the South Pole. Oh, that's a little better, huh? There we go. Let's get rid of the gobbledygook. Whoop, don't escape Mars. I'm going to center it here. I'm moving it with the what's called the paddle. It allows us to adjust the rate of the motors and get a better view there. Oh wait, I missed a question. Oh, Christy, are you hoping for a question about the seasons of Mars? I have been implying that, haven't I? I misread something and I mentioned it again later. But yeah, if anyone has questions about the seasons of Mars, I'd be happy to answer. Catching up on questions here. How close is Mars? On close approach, I think it was 36 million miles away, which was October 6th. Now I wonder if my app will give me an exact count, because that was a few days ago now. It has since changed. We still haven't hit opposition. Whoops. We're still waiting until October 13th to reach the opposition of Mars. When I say opposition, it's when the Sun and Mars are opposite each other. And you can think of it like the Sun, the Earth, and Mars are all in a straight line if you look at them from above. October 9th, how far away are we here? Okay, yep. So we're like 30, it's saying 38, 39 million miles away. So just in that short few days, we've moved a significant distance away. A short commute, yes. Not too bad, right? Now it's worth mentioning, just to add a caveat to what I had mentioned earlier about, why did we shift up again? About traveling to Mars. That's just with our current technology of space travel. You know, in the future, who knows? But right now we can only travel so fast through our solar system. Especially when you take into account that you're sending humans out there. Ooh, that's a great question. Denise again. So is it pretty much certain there's no life on Mars? I would definitely say it's not certain. As far as complex organic life, I don't think there's much chance for that. Just based on the current status of Mars. But so when I say more complex organic life, I mean multicellular organisms like plants, animals, things like that. But when you're talking about single cell life or very basic life, that's a different story. If you think about like bacteria, or think about a simple, it's a multicellular and it is effectively an animal, like it's a microscopic animal, the tardigrade. If you think about creatures like that, the things that they can survive, and the conditions that they can survive, like if you sent a tardigrade to Mars or to the moon, there's potential that something like that would be able to make its way or figure out its living situation, so to speak. I'm just realizing we're on a defect on the lens, so I'm going to move it up again because that's affecting our clarity on the image. I do it like that. It seems like this is a nice clear patch in the sky, or in the field of view, so we'll just leave it there. Where was I? So like, yeah, extremophiles that we call them here on Earth, things that live deep in the ocean or amongst I can't remember what they're called. Like they're the underwater volcanoes. They can survive in those really intense temperatures and actually thrive in them because they feast off other organic compounds, things like methane, for instance. So things like that could certainly have survived, especially if Mars had a pretty significant environment or significantly habitable environment in its past, like with flowing water on its surface. Certainly something like an extremophile could have survived that and maybe is continuing to thrive on Mars. Like they know there are some, I think they discovered some subsurface water bodies underneath the cap. I think it was the northern cap of Mars. So one thing we know about Earth is where there's water, there's most likely life. So that's always what we're searching for. Now that's our possibly narrow view on the existence of life on other worlds. You know, we base astrobiology on what we experience here on Earth, with some imagination to try and figure out, well, what else could have evolved in the universe, given different conditions from what we had on our planet. So, long story short, we're not certain if there's life. There very well might be, and we just haven't found it yet. Mostly NASA's interested in determining its past habitability and maybe finding some evidence for life that did once exist on Mars. Incidentally, there is recent evidence in the atmosphere of Venus of compounds that usually only form and exist in the presence of life. So it's possible Venus might be the better candidate because its upper atmosphere is actually kind of comfortable. The surface isn't, but who's to say life can't live in the clouds, right? $39 million miles, very good. Let's see, I lost track here. Some good cyanobacteria. Yep. Oh, did we reach 700 subscribers? Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate us you hitting that number for us. Oh, look at that. Such a good number to see. Thank you for the update, David. I don't object to continuing, as nice as that number looks. If anyone else wants to subscribe and stay updated about the latest astronomy news and wants to continue to observe with our community, we have people from all over the world tuning in. In part, we gained a lot of audience when we did Comet Neowise, when we observed Comet Neowise through our scopes. And our community continues to grow, and I love how many questions we're getting from the audience here tonight. Right now, the focus for this month really is on Mars. So we'll do our best to do another stream, especially if there's better seeing one of these days. Because with the wind and with the atmospheric conditions, it's not necessarily ideal for imaging. I will try to record some data tonight and just see what I get after processing it. I will get a better image than this for sure, but after stacking, because we are getting some decently clear frames, and stacking just pulls those good frames out and you stack those clearer, higher clarity frames on top of each other to collect as much detail as you can from each frame. And that's what we'll try. We did that with the moon. We did a stream last week for the moon that it sort of showed that process. I'm still learning myself, so it's by no means a complete process, but it gives you an idea. We are drifting, it looks like. We continue to drift, even though the telescope is tracking. No. Just adjust it again here. There you go. In maybe 10 minutes, we'll switch to a higher magnification view using a Barlow lens. So stay tuned for that. We'll get possibly a little bit more detail. We might be pushing it. We'll see how it looks. Because again, we are limited here. Our limiting factor is the conditions outside. When I got up here tonight, I always have this like false sense of hope that the conditions are going to be better than reported, and that very rarely happens for our Binghamton area. So when I came up, I was a little bit disappointed in the clarity out here, even though that was mostly just my own fault for believing in better seeing conditions. It's not terrible, but it could be better. Like some of the stars that should be bright aren't terribly bright, and that's when you know your seeing isn't that great, or even your transparency, which we are at a average transparency level tonight. Let's see. Tom Riley asks, at this magnification, do you still track position only by Earth's rotation? So we do have the scope set up to track slight orbital movements, but it's not really that significant. It is strictly, well, maybe not strictly. Strictly isn't a word. It seems to be a word I keep using or misusing today. I don't know why. It is mostly the Earth's rotation that this mount is tracking. There is slight adjustment to Mars, and that might be why we're seeing a little bit of drifting. This mount does not have specific like planetary orbital speed tracking. It's not like a go-to mount that would be able to do that. It does, so it really isn't accounting much for Mars's orbit. If anything, it's accounting for our orbit. So that's what we have going on this mount. Mostly, it's tracking the Earth's rotation, which is really all we need for a night of observing. How much of an arc does it travel each night? So how much of an arc does Mars travel across the sky? I can't imagine it's very significant. Like, you think about how far the moon moves throughout one evening. It's not going to be anything like that. I think it actually would require a couple of nights, if not more, to notice the movement. Let me see what my planetarium app has to show for that. We just go between a couple days here and just see how Mars moves. Oops. Let's go day. There we go. Well, I suppose since we're moving by it right now, it is actually more significant than I was expecting. best I can say in my app is that it moves about a degree. Yeah, moves just about a degree in both azimuth and altitude, between just tonight and tomorrow. Just about a degree. Let's see. I'm really behind. I'm sorry. I gotta catch up here. So our agenda says, are you collecting the images and what camera? So this one is. Let me get the name for it for you, because it's a lot of scientific equipment like this. It's not named for. Well, I think it has a name like something like a ZWO one-shot color, but the best way to identify it is through its model number. So let me get that. So its model number, it's a ZWO or ZWO one-shot color. It is ASI 224MC. Let me put that in the chat. Camera. And my name is Jeremy, for anyone just joining us. So you'll see, I'm not on my phone. I'm on my personal account, so you won't see 224. You won't see the Kopernik chat. You'll see my name come up. There you go. So that's the camera I'm using. It's effectively an astrophotography webcam. This one's designed for planets. When we observed the Perseid meteor shower in August, we actually did use this as a. Oh well, this was the first camera we used as a all-sky camera to see the entire sky. So you almost get like a 180-degree field of view. It worked better with the monochrome camera, the black and white view. And I think these cameras are fairly reasonable. You know, if you're more getting serious into astrophotography, we have it here at Kopernik as a resource for our Astro Society members. So we appreciate them letting us use that. Let's see, I gotta catch up some more here. And yes, this camera is directly linked into my laptop here, and they are being computer collected. In fact, why don't I start recording now? That's fine. Start video capture. That way I can just start collecting some data and hopefully make use of it in a stack. So Anwar, yes, I can't stack images on my laptop. I really wish I could, and that's something I'm looking into. We're currently looking into some alternatives to this computer. We'll see what comes of that. The problem I'm having is the software for stacking isn't readily available. However, I could run it through Wine, which is a way to run Windows programs on Mac OS. So I might try that, or maybe I'll try installing Windows on here. I'm not sure. Have to think about a few things on that front. I could maybe remote into my PC at home too. That's something I can try in the future as well. And that way I can actually do some stacking for you and get a clearer image. That would be excellent. Something that we're continuing to improve upon as we improve these streams. Gets better all the time. But wow, look at that. It's amazing how quickly you can fill up your storage with these camera views. I believe it's recording mostly lossless data. It's an AVI file. I think it's an AVI file. So it's pretty pretty large file after recording it. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, MFSX is saying there's a program called Deep Sky Stacker that works great. For planetary stuff, I like to use Auto Stackert, and combined with Registacks. And if you want to see how I did sort of a planetary image, it was the moon, but I use the same process I would use for Mars, or very roughly the same process. I use those programs in combination, and you get a pretty decent result out of there. But Deep Sky Stacker works well too for stacking. And Photoshop, I think you can actually do some like manual stacking in Photoshop. That works too. The nice part about the stacking software, like Auto Stacker or Registacks or Deep Sky Stacker, is it ends up working a lot quicker. And of course, it's also specialized for astrophotography. So there's like stabilization. So you see how my image moves around on the screen a lot. Most of the time, the exposures are short enough that you're not going to get any ghosting, I guess you could call it, like exposure ghosting, where you get like a line of Mars rather than a nice circle. So what it will do, since you have a lot of black space around the image, it will be able, it has enough cropping space to stabilize Mars and make sure you're only stacking Mars on top of itself rather than black space on top of Mars or so on. And that it's able to do that pretty efficiently. So those are great programs. And again, if you want to watch the video we did last Friday, it should be 2 videos ago. That one shows you the rough process and where you can find the software and how to download it and stuff. So that could be handy for you. Great questions, everyone. I think maybe we should transition to a different view of Mars. Do we want to zoom in a little bit now? We're zoomed in digitally right now. Again, if you want to see the truer view, like if you were to somehow look through this camera with your eye, that's more like what you are seeing, somewhere in this range. This is 100% crop. So we could push that optically, because otherwise when we zoom in like this, we're pushing it digitally, which is, we're getting something out of it, but I think we might be able to push it a little bit more. So why don't we do that? Why don't we try the Barlow lens that will zoom this view in 2 times. Again, if you are new to the show this evening, welcome. My name is Jeremy Carty, and we are observing Mars tonight because we are in close approach to the red planet. We do streams like this all the time, both presentation streams, like we had earlier this evening about the launch abort of Space Shuttle Discovery. That was presented by David Woods. And usually if the skies are clear, we like to conclude or have a second show that deals with observational astronomy. That's what we're running tonight. So if that interests you and you want to talk to a community of like-minded individuals about astronomy or science in general, this is the place to join in. If anyone also is in a position to support Kopernik tonight, this evening through donation, we do have a donation link in the video description. Also, don't let me forget, I do have something I want to share with you that you can actually use on your devices at home. It's sort of an idea we're testing. We'll see. We can continue to go through with it. I'll tell you about that as soon as I'm done setting up the scope for the improved magnification. So I wonder if I can set this up where you can, let's see, is this the ladder here? Yeah. So you'll just about be able to see in the thumbnail there. I am going to switch over to just my camera for now because you won't be able to see anything in the field of view anyways. So we'll switch to that. There we go. And I'll switch the camera out. Well, not switch the camera out. Rather, I will put in a Barlow lens in between the camera and the scope. And that will let us optically zoom in to our planet. So I'm going to take this right angle out as well. Let's take the camera out first. Camera's out. I'm going to try and do this without moving the telescope at all. That would be awesome. Because it's already lined up with Mars. I don't really want to change that. Alright, so now I need to remove the camera and put the Barlow in between. Again, a Barlow telescope, or Barlow lens rather, magnifies an image a set amount. So usually you'll find Barlow lenses are between 2 and 3 times. I think there's several of them. So the screen. Oh, that's fine. So we have a 2 times Barlow lens here that we're going to use. Wow. Wind is really strong all of a sudden. Alright, let's see if we kept the planet on there. Maybe not. Let's see. So I've removed the right angle as well now. So we just have the camera hooked up to the Barlow that's hooked up to the scope. Okay, let's see what we can do. I'm going to bring back the observing screen. I'm going to have to adjust the levels here and see if I can find Mars again. I'm not seeing it. Okay, I think I see some glare there. Oh wait, you know what? We might have been right on top of it. I might just be really out of focus. Let's see if that's the case. Oh yeah, that's what it is. You know, I might need that right angle to get prime focus. I'm not seeing it here. Or really. See if I can just center this. Bring down the gain here. I know I'm right on top of it now. Yep, looks like I do need the right angle. Not necessarily supposed to use the right angle, but it'll work. For our purposes tonight. might be pretty close now, it looks like. Gotta bring the game down. Oh yeah, look at that. Getting somewhere. Okay. See if we can focus this a bit. Also avoid these. There's a little lens there. Okay, let's see if we can get a little bit more focus. Pretty good. We're really fading in and out, actually. What's going on? It can't just be the seeing, can it? Maybe it is. Let's give it a second and see if it improves. If not, I'll go back to focusing. We had it good there for a second. No, I think it's just the focuser acting up a little bit. Keep trying here. Yeah. That's not bad considering the seeing tonight. You get some not crystal clear views, but clearer views. I like that. I'm pretty happy with that. I feel like it is the either tension from the cord, something's bringing it down. Let me see if I can lock the focus better. Something's weighing it down here where it just doesn't want to stay. It could just be the seeing too, and I'm just being too picky. Let's leave it there. Just it lines up with an area. It's not so. Okay, that looks good. Yeah. All right, let's see what we have comment-wise here, as opposed to comment neo-wise. How come I look at Mars and all I get is red blobs? So, did you mention your telescope before? I can't remember. I thought maybe you did. But it could just be, I mean, one, the sky conditions, or sometimes it's just it's a combination of both pushing the magnification and the sky conditions. Sometimes those just don't match up, and you have to pull back a little bit on the magnification to get some detail. It just it really does depend on your scenario. Like right now tonight, you can see it's really moving in and out, and the wind is blowing the scope around like crazy. It could also be the drifting we were talking about earlier from the movement of the planets, but yeah, you can just about see the pole up here, the South Pole. It comes in and out. It's just a little tiny white blotch. I really hope the seeing improves over the next few days, because oh my gosh, If we could have good, like, you know, even just average seeing tonight or above average seeing, we'd be able to make out some pretty nice detail. We're already doing a decent job. We're getting some good clarity on that band occasionally, that equatorial dark patch across Mars. I wish I could really narrow down what's what there. I can't quite tell if the big canyon there, Valles Marineris, I think it is. It's about the size of the United States. It's a really big canyon, bigger than the Grand Canyon. It might be in there. Because it's sort of embedded in those dark patches. And those dark patches are partially indicative of what the surface of Mars looks like without the rusty dust on top of it. To give you an idea. Let's see. Cheryl says, why does the moon look so globe-like in my photos and Mars looks so flat? Great question. Oh, wow, look at that wind. Great question. That has to do with you know, to some degree, depth perception, or apparent depth perception. Because you know, these objects Mars is so much further out than the moon that our ability to resolve surface features is significantly reduced. Like, if we could see crisp edges on Mars right around the edge here, if you could see the surface features of Mars, you'd definitely be able to tell that they wrap around the planet. And you can almost get that sense here. You can see there's a slight curvature, sort of a bow to this this dark feature. So you can see it's part of a somewhat spherical object, but it's harder to determine that compared to the moon, where you have all these craters across the surface. So that's one issue, is sort of apparent depth perception. We can't quite tell it's super spherical because we just don't have enough detail to make out. Now, if you look at an image from NASA, like the image in the thumbnail that we have for this video tonight, there you can definitely tell it's a spherical object. But here it's almost like you're looking at just a fully it looks like a 2D object, like a circle in space. But the best way to tell it's not is by just looking carefully at the edges and looking at what details you can see. Which is really, this is a great indicator of it when you have this dark patch, and seeing that it's curved slightly. Yeah, it is really really windy here. Oh, your camera. You mentioned your camera. I use a Nikon D3000 DSLR full frame. Your question was, let's see, go back. I guess I'm not totally sure what your magnification on the camera would be, or you're just using your camera then? Because depending on the lens, it's going to be a little bit tricky to resolve some more of Mars than just the the point light, I guess you'd call it. You might be able to make out a disk with a pretty decent lens, high magnification lens, but beyond that, I'm not sure if, because we're really pushing the magnification here on this scope, based on the focal ratio and the camera sensor, and now the Barlow as well. Oh, you do have it in a scope, okay. Yeah, you should be able to, you have a 6-inch Dob, you should be able to see some. It could be your exposure levels too. It's hard to say. Great question. FPV, excuse me. So the image we have going here, we are at Kopernik Observatory in Vestal, New York, and we can only resolve so much detail based on our seeing conditions right now. That's our main limiting factor tonight, is the seeing. If on a 1 to 5 scale, it is a 2 out of 5, which is considered poor. So it's not ideal for imaging Mars tonight, but we're able to make out some decent detail on the planet, considering that the seeing isn't great. And the nice part about seeing being the limiting factor, also the wind is a limiting factor, evidently, by how shaky the image gets sometimes. We get these big gusts and it shakes Mars around. The nice part though is seeing will come in and out. Like at certain points the atmosphere will stabilize and you'll get a crisper view of the planet. Then it'll just go back to out of focus. So this is about as focused I can get. The best way to tell that we've gotten some more clarity is if you look up here and this is the South Pole. You'll see the South Pole, the little white spot on Mars, come into focus every so often, and that's how you can tell. Oh, I just realized I was recording still for my video. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a huge file. Oh boy. So I'm recording a video now for stacking Mars later on and to process an image. I'm not really expecting to get too much out of it, again, because our seeing isn't great. But if our conditions improve as the week goes on, if we have average or above average seeing with no cloud cover and such, I'll do another stream, and hopefully we'll see some nice detail. Throughout October, Mars is going to be a good object to view still, if not into November as well. As we start to head into December and so on, it'll be getting significantly smaller at that point and significantly dimmer. Let's see here. Oh, thanks, Nick. I wouldn't really. I'm not sure what the smoke layers are like above us right now. I haven't stayed up to date on that, so there might be some of that at play, but there's a set amount of turbulence in any given area in the atmosphere, based on a variety of factors. It could have to do with water content in the atmosphere. It could have to do with wind speed. But you can think about it like turbulence, or even if you just think, it's not perfectly applicable, but if you think about the pattern you get on a hot summer day, you see almost like the heat rising off the pavement and giving you those optical effects. that's similar to the idea where it's optical effects caused by our atmosphere, and it increases the more turbulent the atmosphere is, and that's what we're seeing here for our image of Mars. Excellent question. Right now, I mean, Mars being, well, actually, it's pretty high up there now. Maybe 45 degrees, 50 degrees, something like that. It's pretty high up there at the moment. So earlier, certainly there was more, when we first started observing, there was more atmosphere at play. So it's improved a little bit. The seeing still isn't great tonight, but. And the image bounces around a lot because of our wind this evening. Happy to help, FPV. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. Okay. Just a little bit. I wonder if, yeah, maybe we should try the RGB levels here. Where are they? This is giving us the results of the RGB. I don't think I'll be able, that's the focus wheel. I'm not sure if we're actually able to do this through software. Obviously, an actual filter is what we really want. So maybe we can try the monochrome camera. We might have more luck with it. Monochrome black and white camera with a red filter might give us a better view if I can set it up properly. We can try it. We'll stay on this a little bit longer because this is a true color view of Mars, but maybe we can get that red filter going and get some more detail. Wow, look at that. We already got to move the dome again. Think about moving the ladder here. Can I shift this out without being too much of a problem? Yes, I can. The telescope is just about to pass the scope here, so I'm just going to shift it out of the way as best I can. Without affecting our image too much. I did this just in time, I think. I'm like playing with millimeters of space to move the ladder around the scope here. Maybe. Oh, I might have to shift it just out of view. Yep. How do I want to do this? Let me move this down. When you're streaming, you have so much more stuff in here compared to just a regular observing session. So it becomes non-trivial to move things around. I am going to, it looks like it's already moved off, so I'm just going to move the scope out of the way just a bit for a moment, and then I'll put it back on Mars for you. see how close we are there. Might focus it a little bit. The hope. Give me just a second, everyone. I promise we'll get Mars back in just a sec. Just a little bit off. More off than I thought, though. Why aren't we seeing it? What's going on here? I don't see any presence of it. Where'd it go? Right on top of it. Oh. There it went. There we go. Oh, there's brightness. Let's bring down the gain levels and exposure. All right, let's get Mars back. A little bit more focusing. Get away from some of those defects there. And bring this down a bit, bring this up a bit. I think we're back. Oh, hey, that looks better. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it does. I feel like it's a matter of sometimes it's like you're fighting the seeing in the sense of like you can focus the scope to one level where you know the turbulence in the atmosphere, you're sort of matching to that focus, but then it moves and you're defocused again. I like the way that looks though. The wind might also be affecting the focus. Whoa. What just happened? Did the wind take it away? Jeez. game level all the way up again. Let's see here. Wow, the wind did just throw it off. That's funny. Crazy. The adaptive oct, yes. Excellent. Okay. What would be the orientation of the image if looking at Mars naturally by the eye? So, I can give you an approximation. So, this here is the South Pole, which you can occasionally see as this bright spot when it comes into focus. You would rotate that down, almost directly down. If you're looking on a map, south would be this way, right? So you bring the South Pole to true, quote unquote, true south. And the north would be up. This would be the top, and this is sort of an equatorial band across the planet. Let's see. Are there observatories that are heated? I'm sorry, I missed a question. I'll get back to MFSX in just a second. But are there observatories that are heated, or would the heat affect the seeing when it passed by the lens? From Cheryl. That's another good question. Yeah, usually the observatory itself will often not be climate controlled. For the reason you're mentioning there, especially for observatories like ours, the heat would most certainly ruin most of our images. It would be even more significant than what you're seeing here from the atmospheric turbulence. Again, you think back to heat. You could see almost like the heat rising off the pavement. That would be basically what you're dealing with, is that wave effect. So you can't heat the observatories, unfortunately, just to avoid messing with the optics in the end image of what you're looking at. As much as I wish, especially as we head into winter here. But hand warmers come in handy, certainly. What else? MFSX. Any word on when the observatory is opening to the public again? So yes, we are still closed to the public. Our facilities are for the time being, and again, that is mostly because we're moving again. We're on the move from the wind. It's mostly due to our we don't have the ability to successfully sanitize the scopes, for instance. Every time someone looks through an eyepiece, we would have to worry about sanitizing it, and also just ensuring that we set attendance limits. And there's just so much to watch out for. And while we're having a bit of a spike here in our area, that was suspected as we head into the winter that it was going to spike again. So I think most likely we're going to stay closed. Our facilities will stay closed, and we'll continue doing virtual programs through the winter. Usually we wind down in the winter time anyways. Because it's not easy to get up the hill here when it's snowing. So it's usually expected in December we wind down anyways. So I think we're just going to power through the winter on virtual programs, and then in the spring and in summertime, hopefully we'll be able to open back up. But I think the virtual stuff is here to stay, because we are making so many new friends all over the world, and we're building up an online community in addition to our local community, which I think is amazing. So I don't foresee us dropping the virtual programs at all. If anything, I think we're going to continue to improve upon them and just continue to share the night sky with everyone. I have some. I'm just doing another focus round here, see what we can get. I have some videos in the works. That I'm going to. They're not going to be live stream videos. They're going to be, properly produced, not live videos. That I'm going to post on the channel at some point, but they're a work in progress. I don't really want to spoil them. Oh, you know what? This does remind me, though. I have something I want to share with you all, and it's an idea. This is sort of like mini surprise that I had for you. If you watched our video last week, you can see me develop these. But in the chat, I'm going to post a link where you can access. Let's see if I can find it here. I'll also put it in the video description at some point too. But you can access our astrophoto wallpapers. Now we only have one batch so far, and this was the stacked image of the moon that we produced last week. But if you go to this link, this is our Kopernik astrophoto link on Google Drive, you can download a widescreen or iPhone wallpapers, which will work just as well on Android. Most phone screens have the same aspect ratio. There are two iPhone wallpapers though. One is just a standard static size wallpaper that'll fit to most modern iPhone screens. The other one is a parallax iPhone wallpaper, and if you use the parallax feature on your phone, which is like when you if you're on the home screen or the lock screen, you move your phone around, the app icons shift over the image. I like that. It just adds a little bit of dynamic. So I made it, and I figured why not just share them with you guys too, and give back something to those that are tuning into our shows, and we can continue to add those wallpapers as we get more images. I suspect that it will mostly be deep sky stuff and the moon. Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars just aren't quite resolved enough. But I mean, maybe I can assemble some kind of cool wallpaper with them. We'll see. I'll see what I can do. But the moon one that I have there is a really crisp view. So if you're looking for a new wallpaper, you're welcome to it. Oh, thanks for tuning in, Mike. Happy to have you join. And have a good night. Let's see. Oh, thanks. Good to hear that, Linda. That's sort of what we want this to be, is just a... Oop, we're getting some distortion there. Some imperfections on the lenses. There we go. I want this to be an opportunity for us all to just sit down and observe Mars together, whether that be you can see it yourself and you're just tuning in and chatting, or just it's cloudy in your area and you're not able to see it during big events like this, like the close approach of Mars. That's what we want to provide. How are we doing on time? 11:05. Not bad. I think the skies are supposed to cloud up around 1 a.m., so we still have plenty of time for Mars here. Oh, hello, we're in the shaky image again. Martin Bale, which scope are we peering through? So we are looking through the 6-inch refractor. You can see that behind me again. We're working on getting the 14-inch prepped for some astrophotography too, but it'll just take a little bit more time to figure that all out. So, but tonight we're using our planetary telescope for Mars. We're getting a decent view. It comes in and out, and we do have some wind again tonight, so it's some pretty big gusts. So one time they actually moved the telescope enough to throw Mars off our view. So I'm just trying to keep track of keeping it roughly centered, and maybe I should move it over here because it seems to drift mostly to the upper left of our image. If you're just joining, this image of Mars is showing this sort of equatorial dark patch. This might be Syrtis Major over here. I'm not sure. I think it might be. Sort of see this jump up in the dark area. But this represents the equator, or roughly the equator of Mars. Down here is the South Pole, which you'll see come in and out of view. Is a little white spot. It's pretty small. It was bigger in July. But right now, in this season of Mars, it is a bit small. The North Pole is not visible. It is shadowed, and so it's not visible to us. And we are on close approach to Mars right now. So I think October 6th was when we reached the closest point. That was 36 million miles away. Tonight we are 39 million miles away. We have yet to reach opposition with Mars. That is still to come. Opposition occurs on October 13th, and that's when the Sun, the Earth, and Mars are on a line in their orbits. And you can think of it as that Mars is opposite to the Sun. So when Mars rises, the Sun is setting. Sarah says, do you have a video tomorrow? I mean, this video will certainly be available for viewing after the live stream is over. I don't think we're not going to have, we don't have anything scheduled for tomorrow. Depending on how this data looks, I might end up doing a video stream, or yeah, another stream where I process this data. Show you my procedure for that, and show you how we can get more detail out of it by, whoops, too far, by stacking the individual frames of this image. Wow, look at that. That was a big gust. And we lost it again. My gosh. We gotta find it. Where'd it go? There it is. It's just above. exposure there. Okay, bring that down. I'm trying to get some good data here, but it's becoming challenging because whenever those gusts come by, it just completely ruins the data I'm collecting. I mean, I can always chop those bits out, but it's not ideal. Usually, you like just a nice stable view, or roughly stable, where it doesn't, because sometimes it jumps way out of frame, and then you're collecting nothing. Let's try this one. I don't think I'll be able to get much of a good batch of rotation data tonight, because one thing I wanted to do was try and get a couple of stacked frames and then use those stacked frames to develop a animation of rotation. Wow, look at that. We're really fighting the wind here. Just trying to get a little bit better focus. That's not bad. Yeah, we did let's see, I think my last live session was the one of the moon for International Observe the Moon Night on the September 26th. That one, we did use this scope. Yeah, we used this one with my other camera, the mirrorless camera, and that seemed to work pretty well. It wasn't as windy that night. But we're working what we can here. For all we know, this is our only opportunity within the window of the Mars opposition, so we want to do what we can. If there's another better night, I will be back up here for sure. Without wind and without poor seeing conditions. But I think the one before that, when we tried to do deep sky stuff, that was with the 14, and we're currently working on the 14 to see if we can get that ready to go for imaging. Let's see. MFSX says, do you have a go-to mount for your telescope? This one is not a go-to, but it is a motorized equatorial mount, so that means it can track the sky. This is our only dome telescope that is not go-to. Our 20-inch reflector is a go-to mount. It's the most sophisticated telescope we have. And then the 14-inch reflector is also a go-to mount. Unfortunately, I can't operate the 20-inch just yet. I do need to be trained on the camera system for that one. So we'll in the future, when we can actually get together, the Astro Society, and go through a training procedure. Right now, it's just not really in the cards. But we'll plan to do that and hopefully get some streaming out of the 20-inch someday. The 14-inch, though, is our next goal. That's what we really want to get active for, both planetary and especially deep sky objects. I do have a personal telescope that is an 8-inch Newtonian reflector, and that one is a go-to mount as well. So in the future, when I do deep sky streams, it might be from that one. I can also do some deep sky stuff from this guy, but from the 6-inch, I mean. But it's not as big of an aperture. And deep sky definitely favors aperture. I mean, just in general, the bigger the telescope, the better for any object. But deep sky especially, they're so dim that you really need a bigger light bucket to pick up a lot of detail. Yeah, Montevideo, we're working on that, the adapter, and what we need to get that one prime focused with the camera system we have. The last Mars and Jupiter view, I think that was also the 6. I'm pretty sure. This tends to be our go-to telescope for, not to be confused with go-to mount. For planets, we tend to use this one for the planets. I gotta move the dome again. Yeah, if you want to observe the surface of Mars yourself, there is a application. This is our clear sky chart for tonight, but there is a web app called Mars Trek from NASA. You can just do a Google search for this one, and you can observe the high-resolution data collected by the Mars satellites. So there's some really nice surface data here. Oops, there we go. You can almost explore it like Google Maps. It's so high resolution. I don't know if it's going to behave because I am streaming right now. But as you zoom in, it will start filling in information on Mars. There we go, it got a little bit crisper. This is Val Marineris, for instance. Whoa. I don't know why it's so sensitive on the trackpad here. Interesting. Yeah, this is Syrtis Major, I think, right here. Pretty sure this is Syrtis Major. Sort of like the L shape. And then Val Marineris is right here. Let's see if I can line that up with what I'm seeing in my app. Because this is, of course, a 2D app. Let me go back to Mars for you. I don't mean to keep you on something you can look at all the time. So the South Pole is there. Looks like we stabilized a little bit. I'm going to start recording some more data. Of course, as I say that, the image starts wobbling like crazy. That is a good question as well, MFSX, about dedicated astrophotography camera. I just recently went and got one myself. I just recently went and got a camera myself. It is the Sony A7 III, which is another full frame. I think it's similar to what you have there, the Nikon. And I gotta move Mars down again already. There we go. That one is not a dedicated astro camera, but it is totally serviceable for it. Yeah, you can get your the filters removed on some of those cameras though, to become more sensitive to infrared light, and you'll be able to pick up more detail in some of the otherwise darker nebulae, and galaxies for that matter. But it's not so completely necessary. I mean, if you have a camera, and a scope, like I think it's perfectly fine if it's a DSLR to just rock that for a bit, and then maybe I don't know what the options are as far as removing those filters in the Nikons. I know a lot of people do. You can like send it out to someone to do it for a Canon. I don't think they often do it for a Sony because it's more difficult to get that filter out of there. So I'm not sure the process for a Nikon, but oh yeah, look at that South Pole's coming in. That white patch right there. It's a little bit better than it was before. I'm seeing more of it. Before it was really, every minute or so it would come in and then you lose it again, but now I'm seeing it more. And it could also be because now it's rotated a little bit and maybe it's facing us just a tad bit more. It's really hard to say. Wow, the wind is incredible tonight. I guess to be fair, we are really zoomed in as well. On some, when the seeing is excellent. Oh, jeez, it's becoming a game to keep track of this guy. At least it's always salvageable for the most part. I don't have to adjust the scope too much. I probably just jinxed myself, didn't I? There we go. Yeah, so I guess short answer to your question there is it's not completely necessary. But it just depends on how much time and money you want to invest in. You can always do more in astrophotography. You can always keep going, but there's so much out there to look at, even with a basic DSLR that that's it's a perfectly fine point to jump off of and see what you can find. All right, I think what my plan is now, because it is starting to approach midnight, and it's also getting I think the wind is getting worse, so I don't suspect things are going to get much better tonight. I think actually at around 1 a.m. it's supposed to cloud up. So what we'll do, maybe at around we'll plan maybe 11:30. We'll cut the stream. I'm gonna stop the recording here. So we'll have a little bit more time. So if anyone has any final questions, let me know in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. I don't think it's worth it to set up that monochrome camera tonight. The black and white version of this camera with the filters, the filter wheel. I don't think it's worth it tonight just because there is so much wind. I'm already not getting a lot of good data based on the wind and the seeing tonight. So we'll see what I can do with what I have. And we'll either post a video about it or put it on Facebook as far as the final processed image. But I'm really hoping in the next week. Opposition is on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, October 13th. So I'm hoping as the next week passes, we'll have another opportunity with better seeing and less wind for our next observing session. Let's see how the chat is doing. Okay. I do want to mention if there's anyone new watching, because I think we're getting people coming in and out throughout the stream. We welcome you to Kopernik's live streams. If you'd like to learn more about what we offer at Kopernik, or just have a community to talk about science and astronomy of just like-minded individuals, then this is the place for you, I think. And just consider subscribing. Hit the subscribe button, and you can keep up to date on our latest observing sessions and programs. Like I was mentioning earlier, I do have a couple of videos in the works that can guide newcomers to astrophotography and astronomy. And we're going to keep doing events just like this. We're going to focus on Mars for another week or so, and then do some deep sky stuff since we're approaching new moon. And then in December, we have I bring this up on every stream, so I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record to those that tune in consistently. We're going to have the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in December. And that's when Jupiter and Saturn will pretty much be visible through any wide field eyepiece on a telescope. So we'll be able to resolve a good view there. Oh yeah, the moon photo link, I can post it again in the chat. You can just copy that and paste this into your browser here. So I'm going to put in the chat, I'm posting a link, a Google Drive link that will take you to our folder that's titled Kopernik Astrophoto Wallpapers. There's only one batch in there right now from the International Observe the Moon Night image data. And if you want to see how I developed that, we do have a video in our backlog that you can go view. We did that last Friday, and that explains how I processed that image. And I decided to give something back to the community here, and you can access some digital wallpapers for your devices. They're pretty high resolution. There it goes again. They're pretty high resolution. The camera that took the video that we processed it off of is a 4K resolution clip, so it's a pretty high-res image. I wanted one because I just wasn't too thrilled with the stock. Like usually the stock wallpapers that come with devices are often pretty nice, but for whatever reason the moon photo on iPhone I wasn't thrilled about. I like the Earth one, but the moon one looks too overexposed or something. So I decided to make one myself, and why not share it with you guys too? So that's there for you if you want to put it on your phone or your desktop. We'll continue to do that. If there continues to be interest in it, I'm thinking like deep sky objects will look especially cool. So I'm going to make them for myself. So they'll be there for you to use too. All right, let's do one last video clip of Mars here, and then we'll call it a night. I'm going to record another data set. Hopefully it stabilizes enough. Do one more data set, and then we will close up. So again, if anyone has any final questions, let me know in the chat. If you haven't liked the video, please hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it tonight. That helps us out. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing for future observing sessions. We would love to have you. I guess I could back this out a bit. I forgot I was so cropped. Just so, because we were quite zoomed in there. I guess that was part of the problem. You know what? Let me stop this here. Wow, this really shows how much it shakes, though, in our cropped view. That's incredible. We'll try that. The gusts are getting worse out there. Oh no! Alright, well I guess that was my limiting factor right there. So I guess I maxed out my storage on my laptop. The files are pretty large, so that doesn't surprise me. Alright, well, I think that is a good sign to wrap up the program here tonight. I'll give it another minute if anyone has any other questions. Like I said, we will do another Mars stream if the sky conditions pan out in the next week. I want to use this opportunity of the Mars opposition to get some good image data and share Mars with you. So I'll be up here anyhow, so why not stream it and chat with you guys about what we're seeing. Maybe we'll see the other side of Mars that evening. This video will be up for anyone to view after the fact, if you want to see how the stream went. So feel free to tune in then. And looks like we're good on the chat. So thanks for joining me tonight on the Close Approach of Mars live stream. We'll see if we can get another one of these in the next week. And until then, hope to see you again soon, and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. All right, have a good night, everyone.